Every single email you send should drive new sales a month from now. And if they aren't, you're not doing email marketing strategically for your business. And hey, if we haven't met, I'm Lise. I've been in business for over 14 years and I've helped thousands of women create daily sales without social media using email marketing. So I'm so excited because I want to share with you what you can do to drive sales with your emails. Now, this is so important for you if you're a creative entrepreneur, a coach, course creator, online business owner, whatever you call yourself, because we aren't in business unless we're making sales. And daily sales just makes life so much easier. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through a very simple framework that I use to ensure that every single email that leaves my email platform has the opportunity for me to make sales. But before we do that, there are a couple of things that we just need to ensure we have kind of ticked off. And the first is that we always want to ensure that we know who our ready to buy customers are for an offer. So every single email that you write should point to an offer, right? We're all on the same page there. We're not writing random emails. We're not being strategic. We need to really think about who is the ready to buy customer for this offer, and then make sure that your emails are speaking directly to them. This is how you make daily sales. We often go down the rabbit hole of creating content for the people in the beginner phase. And it's really easy to do that and so normal because there are so many people in that phase. And that's not to dismiss anyone that's there. You absolutely should meet people where they are at. And so if you are looking at your offer suite and you don't have any offers that meet your beginner audience, then you have a decision to make. Do you want to help those people? And you absolutely do not. Let me be clear. Or do you just intentionally want them to move on to somewhere else where they will get that support? But be very clear about that. Make sure that every piece of content, including your emails, is always speaking to your ready to buy customer. Now, here's the thing, only 2% of your audience are ever in the ready to buy phase. So we always want to speak to them and also know that the people who aren't quite there yet will be. And that is why we use this very specific framework when we write our emails. So be clear on who your ready to buy customer is when you're writing your emails. And then the other thing that we also want to make sure that we check off before we even worry about writing these emails is, are our subject lines actually getting people to open them? So you can have the best email in the world, but it doesn't matter if people aren't actually opening it. Now, over time, you will build know, like, and trust, and people will want to open your emails and they won't really care what the subject line is because they just genuinely want to hear from you. But if we're talking about the first sort of 30 to 90 days of a new subscriber being in your world, which is one of the most important times for you to actually present offers to people in that space, then we want to make sure that the subject lines that we're using are actually getting people to open them. Now, this is where we want to avoid all clickbait, right? So never use clickbait, but we do want to use curiosity. Now, the best and easiest way to do curiosity is to either ask a question, put a quote, or one word. Those three rules of thumb when it comes to your subject lines will serve you really, really well. So ask a question, provide a quote, a one-letter word. Now, all of those options should always be related to the content, right? So whatever you've written in the email needs to be relevant. And this is why I always write the email first, then I do the subject line, because then that makes it really easy to ask a question. It makes it really easy to pull a quote out of the email. And it also makes it really easy to pick one word that kind of sums up the email if you're going that route. So those are my three recommendations for writing subject lines that actually get people opening your emails, which then leads us into, how do you ensure that you write emails that actually drive sales? So this is where we introduce the nurture and sell framework. Now, I have a full training on this and a breakdown of what all of that is, and so you can check that out in the description below. But I want to briefly walk you through what the Nurture and Sell framework is. And this is the exact framework that drives daily sales from my emails. And basically, it goes like this. We always want to open with a story. Now, I know that as soon as I said that, you've probably just gone, oh, I don't know how to tell stories. And I totally get that. So I want to reframe that for you. This is not about you having to tell like an elaborate fairy tale or anything like that. This is being able to tell a story that helps your audience understand whatever point it is that you're trying to actually help your audience understand, right? So you're just using a story to emphasize either a point, a lesson, something along those lines, which is why it's always important to start with the offer first. What are the pains that you're solving? What are the myths that your audience might have around this? And any incorrect beliefs? Why do they think they can't do this thing? Those are all information. That's all kind of fodder for stories. And then your only job is to collect stories. And this is easier said than done. Now, I also have another training called the Story Bank Practice, which walks you through how to capture stories every single day, right? Literally, there is an untapped resource of stories that you can dive into. And so I'll link to that below. But basically, that's what you're going to do. You're going to start with a story. And it only needs to be 1 or 2 lines of text. Like I said, doesn't need to be super long. And you're literally just going to walk them through. You're going to recount the story. And then the next thing that you're going to do is give them an action step or a key takeaway, right? So you've just gone through and shared the story. Now you actually want to provide them with the actual lesson. You're either empowering, inspiring, that type of thing. Then, thirdly, we want to then have a call to action. Now, when I use the Nurture and Sell framework, I do alternate between call to action being in the main body of text and then the call to action being in the PS, which I call the soft sell, which we talked about in a previous video. So you can alternate between those. And how I make a decision around that is if I'm doing more of the nurture content before a much larger promotion, then I will put a soft sell PS. That might not necessarily lead to a paid offer. It might go through to my discoverable content, which is going to be either a YouTube video or a blog post. Now, both of those are also optimized for offers. So there's still an opportunity for the sale, but I always just want to think about what's the most important thing that I'm looking to achieve with my email. And so that's kind of how you're making that decision. But it's story, lesson, or action step, call to action. Now, I want to show you what this actually looks like. So I will link to this in the description as well, just so that you can see it. But this is from my Kit account. So this is my creator profile, and I actually made this email public. So that's why you're looking at it from this. Now, this was the subject line. It's just called little. So remember how I said your subject line needs to get people to open. This email subject line did really well. And then it just goes on to tell a story. Now, yes, this story is a little bit longer because there is a bigger point that I'm looking to make. But basically, I was just sharing about how, we're in Vietnam, and I was reflecting on, something really, really tiny. And if you want the story bank practice, this will help you figure out how to capture these stories, like how to actually come up with this type of a story. So you can see here, this morning while making my coffee, I had a revelation, and it is the smallest thing, and that's what I really want you to understand. This is not some elaborate story. This is a really small, nuanced story. But the key is being able to relate it back to your audience and relate it back to what it is that you're actually trying to help your audience understand. So this one was all about the little things, right? And you know how the saying goes, it's the little things that make a difference. And this got me thinking about email marketing. That's the transition right there, and how the little things make a huge difference there too. And this was really just to remind people about the fact that there are some major updates that have been made, particularly from Microsoft. Now, these were made ahead of time, in 2024 for all the other email providers, but Microsoft was slower to roll those out, and now they are rolled out. So I wanted to make sure that my audience knew about this. So I didn't necessarily have anything to sell in relation to that, but I just wanted to make sure that they were reminded. And I also wanted to give them something to help them understand how they can ensure that their emails are getting opened, particularly by anyone that uses Outlook or Hotmail. And then what I did was link them to a video where that all happens and where it then also links to an actual offer, right? Every single video that I record is always linked to an offer. Why would you not do that? So then I've got some quick action steps, and that was it. And there are always these links at the bottom of my emails. And this one here will take people through to all the different offers that I have and how to best decide what is going to work for them. So you will find this linked to in the description below if you want to dive into it a little bit more. And if you haven't jumped on my email list, you can go ahead and do that right from here as well. You can sign up. But what I really want you to understand is how important it is to make sure that you are nurturing and selling in every single email so that you have the ability to make daily sales every single day. And then the final piece of all of this, because really what we're talking about here is strategy, is to make sure that you are reviewing your analytics. So I review my analytics daily because I'm obsessed with email. But if you're not as obsessed, then I would say once a week to once a month. It's entirely up to you. And what you're really tracking are your open rate, your click rate, and your sales, right? Are your sales coming from your emails? Now, I know because I'm tracking this that 85 to 90% of sales come from my emails. Remember, I'm not on social media. I'm not running ads. Everything I do is inside the inbox. And so that's where I focus my attention. I'm paying attention to what is going on there. So in the next video that's coming up on your screen right now, I'm going to help you avoid the number one critical email mistake most online business owners are making right now and how you can avoid it. I'll see you in that video.